When we started British Steel in 1976, we started as production apprentices, which means that we had to do a college course. Now, we did this college course for 3 years. Now, when we were at college, we things I'm remembering, we used to get up to some crazy stuff. As as a group, one of his tutors went out the classroom for about 10 minutes. Might have been on a coffee break, and we were doing some materials testing in this classroom, and it was one of them what you'd see in a school where they had long benches and your Bunsen burners, and your pot sinks on round the edges on the perimeter. So one of these lads, we used to have bottles with fluids in them, and there were squeezy bottles with like a spout on. So anyway, somebody got a bottle of alcohol, fill this pot sink up with it, and another one throw a match in it, and blew the sink up. Well, he didn't actually blow it up. He blew it up and he cracked it all. And if you'd have touched it, it just fell to pieces. I know who it were. I'm not mentioning his name, Steve. One of the stories I wanted to get round to is we used to wag college. When we were on this block release, we used to wag college. Now, some of them used to wag it nearly every day. And me and Nicky, we wagged it. We used to go to the pictures or playing snookers in this local snooker halls. Anyway, me and Nicky, as I say, we wagged college, and college picked up on it that all these kids were going missing, and reported us back to HR. So they hauled us all in, and me and Nicky, we'd wagged college a couple of times, and we'd gone to pictures. And I'm not saying it's an excuse, but we only ever did it twice, and we saw two films. On one, I remember them both, but I don't know what year they were. One was slap shot or slapstick, slap shot. It were James Corden, he was a down and out hockey player, and the other one were about an evil car, black car. It might have even been called the car. Anyway, this is around about 1977, 1978. The guy we used to work with, his brother-in-law were head of HR. So this bloke who we used to work with, he was actually our union man at that time. So he marched us over to HR office. We sat down, and he gave us a dressing down, and we got 1 day suspension. We were very lucky. We got 1 day suspension without pay, and he actually gave us the day. He let us choose his own day off. Now, I'd just passed I'd not just passed it, but I'd passed my core test about 3 months earlier, and I was buying a car, and I was picking it up, so I chose that day to have off. But the other lads around the plate mill and the wide strip mills, I think they got like a week. They didn't get sacked, but they got week suspension at a time. So that was a bit naughty. Anyway, that I should have included that in the last video, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do it in ascending order. So I'm starting where I'm very in his early stages of employment. I'm working up through the 80s and into the 90s. So that basically finished the 1970s off. So 1980 onwards, the 1980 strike, what lasted for 3 months, has just finished. We used to have this chap who used to come in, uh, and I don't know what he really didn't do much, to be honest. I think what he'd done, he'd start in the wide strip mill, he'd make his way to the warehouse, and then come about 6:30, he used to come into the narrow strip, and his name was Johnny Douglas, and all he used to do was just go around switching off lights, and he weren't. How can I put this? He weren't all there, bless him. But I don't really know. Trying to be kind, I better to put it. Used to wear like a long coat, like a gabardine, with a berry on. But as I say, he used to come round, and Brian, being Brian, always used to wind him up. So he used to chase Brian, and when he got him, he used to whack him. He used to actually give him a good slap. And one day, me and Pete, we saw him hit Brian with a lump of wood, and everybody used to torment him. Me and Pete, we used to put safety hats on. We didn't have to wear safety hats in there. There were no overhead cranes out like that. And we used to have like little calculators, and we used to use them as mobile phones. I mean, they weren't even invented then. Nearest thing you saw to a mobile phone or whatever were like on Star Trek. So we used to like talk down these calculators with his hats on a clipboard, and we used to say things to him like, "We're your gaffer now, and you will do as I'm told. You will do as you are told." So Pete would go and stand probably 20 or 30 foot away, and from me, and we were both there talking on these calculators, and pointing at this Johnny Douglas, and he used to chase us. That rewinder line that Brian used to work on. One day, he had an accident where a strip come back and it hit him in the face, and it cut all his forehead. He had it stitched up, and it come like up his forehead, and probably about 4 stitches on each side. You get what I mean. Anyway, Pete, he were a very good sketcher. Now, I used to do these sketches and little caricatures of people who we used to work with. And he used to do one of Brian. Now, you've seen pictures of Brian in them other videos with his bald head and his big ears. So Pete used to do him a drawing, put little bolts in its neck, we score down its head with dots, what made him look a bit like Frankenstein. I mean, he used to love it. He used to like wear them as badges. Bonkers. So I reckon it's still around about 1981. And when we'd had this snap on afternoons, we used to play football in that middle of the shop. So we didn't actually play with a ball. We played with, it was like screwed up paper from the coils, wrapped in nylon tape, which resembled like a small football. So there'd be about 5 on us, and we'd all stand staggered, and we used to pass it about. Then somebody used to be net. We used to like 2 markers for our net, and we used to shoot it to him. Anyway, Pete, so we to you to me kind of thing. And then it comes to doing these shots. Now, at the bottom of the shot was a door, like a doorway, and it just and it was on that road. If you watch that first video, I get on about that road, what takes you down, what took you down to MetLab. So this ball's in the middle of the shop, and Pete runs up to it, whooshed her, whacks it, went straight past everybody, straight through this door, and it's about 6:10 in the evening. So we just had a snap, 5:30. We got up, like have 15-20 minutes of football, and so it's about 6:10, and it goes straight through this door, and it's this car what's coming up from MetLab to go out, to exit the works. So we hear this thud, boom. So we all Scarpers runs off into different, like fragment. And about 5 minutes later, this bloke comes in holding this ball. Like, you could see him looking round, and he must have collared somebody, and he said, "Who's kicked this bloody thing through the door? It's just gone hit my windows." I don't know if it hit his windows or his door. I don't know if it done any damage either. But anyway, we don't know nothing about it. Anyway, he just like threw this thing down up floor and buggered off again. So he fetched his ball back for us. It's about 1981, and I have my second accident. Now I'm still number 2 in for my leading hand, who's Lananson. And these coils that we're doing on our Schloman mill, sometimes they're interleaved with paper. So I'm there waiting. So he says, "Get ready for paper." So I'm waiting for paper coming. So as coils unwinding, paper's lit in, and it just drops out. And if you don't catch it, you have to slow or stop machine. And then paper just goes all over the floor. So you have to catch it. You have to be quick, catch it, and then put it onto a winding spool so it winds paper out. I'm waiting for paper coming. Anyway, it comes and I misses it, and it starts dropping out floor. So I puts my hands underneath to pull it out, and I've sliced my finger end off on edge of strip, trying to grab this paper. Ambulance we call for. Somebody said it's a bad accident. So they've ran to this ambulance. They've started it up, but they can't get it going because the gear stick has actually come out of the gearbox. So they've had to run back, get in the security car, come and collect me, take me to the ambulance room where she's had a look at it and said, "No, I can't do that with that." Hospital. So up again, I'm off to hospital, and this time I've gone to Northern General, where it's this finger, and it's sliced it, but it's hanging on because it's still attached under my fingernail. I'm looking at it now. So they've pulled it back and they've like taped it together. They've not stitched it, but they've taped it together. But underneath, I've damaged all my nerve ends. And all they've done is like pulled it back. Anyway, it's split open. It's actually come open again. After about 3 days, it just come open. And now it's just got like a big lump under my finger where it really just don't look right. And then in the winter, of course, because it's cold and I've got nerve damage, it still curls up even to this day, which is like over 40 years ago. It still curls up and it goes like that. Can you see? It goes like that, like an hook. Anyway, these last few years, I've just started getting some feeling back in my finger. All them years. Anyway, that first accident that I mentioned in the last video, I didn't know no better because I was only like an 18, 19-year-old kid. But this accident, I put a claim in for it. Do you know how much I got? I said 300 and... Wait a minute, I wrote it down. Where is it? 325 quid. I don't think it was a lot of money then. So around about 1981, or the end of 1981, I got a vacancy come up for another roller, so number one position, leading hand, and I moved into that position. So I got my new mate then were my old college mate, Nicky, and this were the beginning of the partnership of the Terrible Twins. So one of these stories of me and Nicky being named the Terrible Twins is we had a good friend. His name was Andy McShane, or Mac for short. Now me and Nicky had been on afters probably, I don't know if it were 2L9 or 2L10 in them days, and Mike were coming on 12-hour nights. There was a chap called Mick Howard and Ray Fox, and they used to go rummaging in the skips, and they'd fetch back some cakes that had been left over from an office party or the canteen or something like that. Now, they'd been in these skips and they found these cakes, and they'd put them in snack cabin, and Pete had undone them and put a message on them saying, with thanks, or from the canteen staff, enjoy. I think there might have been 2 or 3. I think there were 2. Thinking. So they were on these plates. So I'd put them on plate, like dinner plates, and we'd cut like a segment out of it. So Matt comes, as I said, Matt comes on his 12-hour shift, and he's got changed and walks into the cabin to mash his cup of tea before he goes to his job. Ooh, cake. We sat there, we said, yeah, get what you want, Mike. From canteen staff. Have you had some? Yeah, we've just had a piece, look. So it cuts the piece out, big chunk, takes it off the trots. Anyway, end of shift. We'd gone up, I think Mac had been and had another drink and had had another piece. So at end of shift, before we clocked out, we said to him, oh, by the way, Mac, them cakes were out at Skip. So and we walked off, like, I don't know if we were laughing or not, we were right gits. So he'd written a letter, he'd written like a little note to his brother when he got home in the morning, and he said to, and on this note it said, if I'm dead this afternoon when you come to wake me up, it's because of them 2 bastards at work, Nicky and John, the Terrible Twins. So, well, obviously he's come to work the next evening and he's told us about it, and he's laughed about it. It was all in fun, but there were, as I said, I'm gonna stress, they were sealed up cakes. They went in with a pile of rubbish. They'd been in that skip all of probably 10 minutes. They might not have been in skip, they might have even handed it to him. It's just that Mick and Ray fetched them back into the cabin. Anyway, I think that's enough for round 3 or part 3. my tales from the factory floor. But I want to say this. Now I'm asking you to leave comments, but there's nobody leaving comments. But what they are doing is, because they know me, some people who used to work in our strip, they're texting me. They're either sending me messages. They'll send either by messenger. They'll put it on my Facebook posts, or I'm getting emails. I've not had no abuse yet over these stories. Some of them finding them quite endearing. But I did get one comment from someone who saying steelworkers fucking dummies. So that's things like that. But I think that were more, more pointed at me than anybody else. Right, if it's something that you enjoy, you like listening to, please let me know, and I'll come up with some more stories.